Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up with the Snowline Gold guys today. They talk us through their up and coming drill program. So Nicholas Matasek and joined by Scott Birdahl, COO as well. If you want our thoughts and opinions on the conversation today and the company itself, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club, where you can also find detailed company reports and analysis. We've got commentary from experts from around the world. We've got training courses on there. Plus, we do summaries of all the interviews that we do just to save you some time because we know you're busy people. And if you want to join a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, friendly and safe environment, free from all that judgment, trolling and abuse you may see elsewhere, go and join them. cruxinvestor.com/club. There's a bit of a waiting list at the moment because we've been slightly inundated. So that wait list will sort of clear up over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So cruxinvestor.com/club is the place to go. We love your feedback too. So give us a like, leave your comments below. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today, do take a look in the description below. Gentlemen, how are you both?
Very good, thank you.
Good. Well, Nicholas, good to see you again. When did we speak? Two and a half months ago?
Yeah, beginning of March.
Beginning of March.
It's been a while, a couple of months.
Fantastic. Hey, well, I don't know if you remember, I always make people do like a little 1-minute summary of what the business is before we get into it, because I'm kind of keen to understand what's up next. So give us that 1-minute overview and I'll pick it up from there.
Yeah, Snowline started trading March 1st. In that time, we've staked an additional 25,000 hectares, announced 5 projects. And we're all set for summer exploration. We're funded. We've got our permits lined up, contractors lined up, and we're ready to go.
Right. Fantastic. Okay. So what has been happening since we last spoke?
A lot of exploration planning. And I'm joined by Scott Birdahl, our CEO, who can shed more light on that.
Okay. Hey, Scott, how are you?
Not too bad. How are you doing, Matthew?
Not too bad. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. So where are you?
I'm up in Whitehorse. I'm based up here.
Okay.
Whitehorse, Yukon.
Okay, right. Is that where you have always lived? You from that region, or are you just up there for this work?
I was born and raised up here, actually. I've been prospecting up here since I was about, in the single digits. And I went away to school, and I've worked around the world and studied around the world, and back up here just a few years ago, kind of launching some of the prospecting assets into this new vehicle.
Right. Okay. And so give us a bit of background. So what have you done or where have you worked?
I left home after, like I say, prospecting throughout my teenage years with my father, who was a prospector up here, and studied geology at MIT, came back during a bit of a gold boom here, and then went on during the doldrums of the past, the mid-teens there, went back to school, did a little bit of studying a master's degree in Saudi Arabia, and then studied business at INSEAD in Singapore and France. And throughout that, sort of did some prospecting work in Africa, in the U.S., and ultimately back home in the Yukon, where I helped my father out, and we sort of built up the asset portfolio that we've been working on for, if you count my dad's start to it all, he started 3 decades ago, so in the late 80s.
And so is this is with Snowline? Are you working with Snowline full time, or have you got other stuff going on?
I am working with Snowline full time. Yeah. So we pieced together 7 of our most promising gold projects. Basically everything with multi-million ounce potential as we saw it, and some very big low hanging fruit in terms of the targeting. Those were obviously pretty attractive to people in this market, and so we were able to bundle them together and assemble a great team around them. And here we are. Okay. And so how did you two get together? How do you know each other? Sure. Well, we were brought together by Keith Neumeyer, who was pretty excited about the property portfolio. He did some of the pruning of projects to get to the 7 that we're at. And he introduced me to Nicholas. We're lucky to have him on board.
Yeah, we heard Nick. In fact, I'll just remind people we've interviewed Nicholas recently. We'll put a link to that below. Check that out in terms of business plan, strategy, team, etc. So this pruning that Keith did, what was it based on? What was he looking for? What was he trying to make the portfolio look like?
Very gold focused. So we had a pretty diverse package. We have a tungsten deposit, some silver plays, and so on. And so he pruned it to the very gold focused properties. but also the larger gold focused properties in terms of what might be there. We have some more advanced projects that are, they're in the 100,000 ounce sort of range where they have some exploration upside, but you're probably not going to be sitting on a 5 million ounce deposit on that site. So we kind of scaled it back to the bigger properties with the district scale and with that gold focus.
Right. Okay. So anyway, Nicholas said you guys have been planning. So who's in that planning team, and what exactly are you planning?
Well, we've got a great planning team. We have, as you may have seen, we've tapped into having Craig Hart as our chair. We have a ton of industry and academic experience from him. Someone who knows the rocks very well. Just for people who don't know, Craig was a founding member of the Yukon Geological Survey, where he worked for about 14 years. He knows the deposits of the Yukon better than almost anybody. And since then, he went on to MDRU at UBC, the Mineral Deposit Research Unit, which has collaborated with industry, a lot of majors and various juniors to really establish certain deposit models. And so we have a ton of technical expertise there. And I've also known Quinton Hennig for quite a few years, and he's always been very open to just bouncing back and forth ideas. So we were lucky to have him join as well as a technical advisor. So it's been great, and he's got a lot going on, but he's always there to you send him a text and he's right back with great advice. So that's been good, and we've been bouncing around ideas. And we also have Paul Matisik as well, so I'm pretty excited to be able to collaborate with him and get his thoughts on things. And his track record more than speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, great team indeed. So I mean, fantastic. High profile in the market as well, most of them, I would say. But I'm interested in what you're planning to do next. You've got the money in the bank. Nicholas says you've got the money in the bank. So what are you going to do? You got to start doing some stuff where people can have a look at, what's there. What you got to put news in the market. So what are you planning?
Yeah. So we're planning on focusing on 2 projects out of the 7. We will do some advancement on the peripheral projects, but we have kind of 2 flagship projects where the exploration thesis is we feel very compelling, and there's near-term discovery upside where we have both drill-ready targets and very intriguing discoveries that we hope to make drill ready this season by about the end of the season. So the 2 projects we're focusing on are Rogue and Einarson, and they are adjacent. They're both in the Selwyn Basin, about 85 kilometers northwest of McMillan Pass. And they are situated in this sort of passive margin sequence of rocks. So this old continental shelf, which is actually, the Selwyn Basin is interesting because it is lined up with the Great Basin in Nevada, where you have the Carlin Trend. So obviously very prospective, and not just for Carlin, but we're seeing several other deposit types coming out of there. Elsewhere in the Selwyn Basin, you have intrusion-related gold, and we certainly have that at Rogue. And you have basically in these Selwyn Basin rocks just this big regional fold that's crunched around by this fault system. And so you have several different levels of deformation in there. And at the nose of that fold, you have these tombstone suite intrusions, which are responsible for elsewhere for deposits like Fort Knox in Alaska, for Brewery Creek in the Yukon. You have the same generation, the same series of intrusions coming right through the apex of this big, mountain range scale fold. And that's Rogue, is right in the nose of that fold. And Einarson is sort of up in the radial cracks and the heavily deformed rocks up to the north of that. So you have this sort of district scale tectonic package with gold anomalies just coming out everywhere that no one has really taken a good look at before.
Okay. How are you going to approach it though?
Yeah, so we have already a lot of baseline data to go on. Previously, we had these projects optioned to 2 different operators before. And so we have that their baseline work to launch from. So we're very lucky there. And in that is some very low-hanging fruit. There were just the nature of the things in 2012, 2013. A lot of very promising projects were sort of left at the wayside. And so that's where we were able to pick them up. They came back to us. We held on to them through the doldrums and were able to repackage them there. So we're not starting from scratch, but we do have some very intriguing targets to go on. So one of the thrusts of the program will be very quickly assessing these targets and readying them for drilling in early to mid-season. So we'll be out there in not too many weeks. Basically, we're just waiting for the snow to melt and get out there with some trenching and some just mapping to sort of verify exactly where we want to put things. And then we have those drill ready targets specifically at Einarson. And from there, we will dovetail that with more regional work. There's our thinking has evolved a little bit about what's actually out there since 2012, 2013. And so based on that, there's a lot of prospecting to do, following up on these huge data sets and just kind of generally looking for new areas of interest and trying to better understand some of the big anomalies that are in there in the data. There's a soil anomaly at Einarson that is 30 kilometers long. We haven't really figured it out yet, but the rocks are very prospective for Carlin style mineralization. And it's just this big, long faulted anticline. And everywhere you cross it with a soil line across 30 kilometers, it lights up in gold. So, there's obviously prospecting and mapping and head scratching to be done there to try to figure out where these fluids might concentrate enough to generate an economic ore body.
Okay, and I think it's really important that you kind of set expectations properly, because a lot of the questions sent in were, hey, so when do they start drilling, right? So what you've just outlined to me is there's some work to be done to identify targets before we do that. It's part of the natural process of exploration. So time-wise, you're going to spend how long sort of assessing what you've got in terms of trenching, etc.?
We're some of the targets, particularly a target called Mars Northeast at Einarson, is very close to drill ready. And so we are basically just going to spend a few weeks there once the snow goes and then bring in the drill as soon as we can afterwards. So it's not going to be, an extended process of we like the target. We have a fairly good understanding of it, but we just want to make sure we put the drill in the best spot. So we're not just going to fly it out there immediately.
Right. Okay. But again, come back to this thing about setting expectations. People get excited about new companies coming through. Expectations is just going to rocket because it's all easy. It's all easy stuff. But the reality is you got to do things the right way. Okay. So you're talking about big anomalies, but nothing a geologist loves more than an anomaly. But not all of them work out, right? Not many people find or make discoveries either. So there's a process you're going through. And I'm just trying to maybe get you today to kind of lay that out in simple terms for people to understand the timeline, a little bit more about the process and what your expectations are at the end of this. Because I think if you come back on, what I'd like to be able to say, or like you to be able to say is, hey, here's what we said we'd do, and we did it, and we're going to do the same thing moving forward. So can you just lay that out for us in sort of simple terms for people? Based on some of the questions coming in, I'm not sure people get it yet.
Sure. Okay. Well, yeah, and I think expectations is a good way of framing it. I don't want to, say we're just going to go in there, we're going to drill, and there's going to, we're going to have 100 meters of X grams per ton. So we're going to go in and shore up those targets. And that'll be in fairly short order over the process of a few weeks. Then we will be bringing in the drill to drill that target. We, of course, hope to make a discovery. Worst case scenario, we hope to have a much better understanding of, where to drill, where to target. And at the same time, while that's going on, it's a longer process, and we will be mobilizing down to Rogue and where there are other very intriguing targets, grab samples with visible gold in them, assaying to 152 grams. And so that target is, that's at the sort of discovery stage, but there are quite clearly some drillable features there. And so we just have to shore that up. So again, same sort of timeline as at Mars Northeast, except just shifted back later in the summer. We're going up here, seeing what we can learn, seeing what we can discover, and then on the back of the stove, sort of looking at these other targets here. Just the proximity helps us.
Okay.
And later in the season, we'll have that option to shift down there.
Okay. So there's a lot of thinking time, planning time. Is it one drill?
It's one drill.
Moving between the two, right. And explain to people why you don't get two drills, one at each location.
Well, I mean, it's just a little premature at this point. We know we want to drill both, but we want to get that information first. And yeah, there's no need to, just shoot from the hip here and blow all our money. We need to use it wisely. And I think, there's plenty of drill. If we do hit big at Mars Northeast, and if we want to just keep on drilling there, then and that targeting at Rogue goes well, then of course we'll look at bringing in a second drill. But for now, there's no need to bring that in up front.
Okay. And how much money will you be using this drill season?
We're looking at about a $4.5 million program out there.
Okay, so you're good for cash. And then what? What at the end of this? What do you do at the end of that period?
Well, I mean, it obviously depends a lot on what's on the drill bit. We will have a much better idea of what's out there, and hopefully some really good results to show for it. But either way, we will have learned a lot, and we'll have a lot more context in these ideas that we're kicking around up there. Some potentially very big deposits. Okay,
and again, so I'm just sort of I want you to tell people why that's important, right? Because it doesn't sound very exciting, and I think people will go, "Oh, well, there's not a lot of action there." So, why is it important to lay it out and plan it like this? Why is getting the order of play right? Why is that information important to you in terms of the way you build the value?
Well, I mean, you look at a lot of these big discoveries on huge world-class deposits. You see even in base metal deposits where the sizes are way bigger, you see things that are, you read about this ore body and it just seems so huge, and you think, how could you possibly miss this thing? But then you read the discovery story and they found it on, the 14th hole or the 10th hole or the 20th hole or something like that. And so you need to make those decisions with as much information as you can. And we're excited about the potential out there. I mean, the grades that are coming out, the scale of things that we're finding, the writing's on the wall for some very big deposits. But we could easily set up at Mars Northeast, stick a drill on the ground and try to poke through it without thinking hard enough, and basically just put a nail in the coffin on what would otherwise be a very promising deposit.
Okay. I think you set out your stall quite nicely today. I'm excited. I think I want to
three of us.
I want to see. Yeah. I don't know, genuine. I want to see what you guys come up with. I like what you're planning to do. You've got the money to do it, so go do it. Come back and tell me that you've done it. Appreciate your time today. Thanks, guys.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.